I want to start the conversation here. And it's from Chris Johnson of the Chris Johnson Show on SDPN Sports.
Okay, for the listeners, Adam, who is that?
He's an up and coming reporter. We wish him well.
Canadian Press still?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
He said the Leafs power play, and this is midway through the game, is 13 for 121 dating back to February 27th, 2024. That's a 10.7 conversion rate over a meaningful amount of time with a group of players that had previously been among the NHL's best with the man advantage. And I'm going to add to that. It is now 13 for 122 because they did have another power play after that, which they did not convert on.
Well, Adam, I mean, you can move off the core, but who would you trade them for?
Dom Lecision. If I take a quick look back at my past schedules, and Steve, you mentioned this in the LFR, the Leafs had not lost a back-to-back regular season game by 4 goals or more since 2014-2015. You ran through some of the roster on that. Corbinian Holzer was dressed for the Leafs at that point.
David Booth, Tyler Bozak, Jake Gardiner, Peter Holland, Corbinian Holzer, Olli Jokinen. This is a rare Olli Jokinen game. He only played like a dozen games for them. Nazem Kadri, Phil Kessel, Leo Komarov, Brandon Kozin, 67. Joffrey Lupul, Richard Panik, Dion Phaneuf.
Panik at the disco.
Yes, Roman Polak, Morgan Riley has been through so much. Stefan Robida, Zach Sill, James Van Riemsdyk, and James Reimer.
A Leafs fan last night during the game threw a jersey on the ice during a TV timeout. Steven Lorentz grabbed it and brought it to his bench, and Steve didn't believe me. So I sent him the picture. Nick Alberga actually had the picture from the press box. It did happen. Jesse was there.
And Nick is like kind of he can be a shit disturber on Twitter.
Course,
so I texted him personally to be like, is this real? And like, I'm like, okay, how could this have been AI'd? Okay, I see Max Domi on the ice. I see all the Blues players listed on the scoreboard. It appears to be a Blues game. No, I don't believe it.
Now, Jesse, we talked about one side of the special teams coin. Let's talk about the other side of the special teams coin. I would like specifically to bring up your screen grab from last night. When we were just talking about one particular penalty killing instance. Now, remember, as Jesse's pulling this up, let's talk about what makes a great penalty, Steve Dangle. If you're a PK unit, what makes an all-star amazing PK unit?
A willingness to block shots.
Okay.
Positioning, discipline to that positioning and not biting on the bait that you are given. Speed and stick work also help.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great thing. How do you feel when you see this picture? Maddie, take us off the screen. You need to see that with all that white ice. Now, if you're listening to this show, this is the Dylan Holloway goal. On the power play. You got 2 Leafs down low in the corner digging for the puck. You also have, so that's a forward and a defenseman. You also have a forward and a defenseman within 10 feet of the scrum of where the puck is. And you've got Dylan Holloway all alone in front of the net. And I can't tell which defenseman that is right now for the St. Louis Blues. Suffice it to say, it doesn't matter because he's not covered.
You ever watch an episode of Dragon Ball Z and they're fighting and you're like, where the hell did they find this giant, flat, open space with no one in it? And I think they should start fighting at Scotiabank Arena. I think like Majin Buu and Goku and Vegeta, all of them should show up and just fight in between the space between Dylan Holloway and the nearest Leaf. Dude, this sucks.
Well,
that was 48 Scott Peronovich.
Oh, listen, you can't leave Peronovich open.
Yeah, that's what they always say.
You know, that's what I've heard. When Peronovich is on the ice, you got to watch the F out.
That's what the pregame scouting report says.
He's a good player.
Nobody's saying he's not a good player.
Yeah,
I'm just making a joke, okay?
Can we point out, like, on top of everything, like, the Blue Jackets are so ridiculously shorthanded, and the Blues smack them without Robert Thomas. Boo, get off the stage. You suck. I don't know. It's early in the season.
Cheryl Pounder made a joke at intermission saying the Oilers were up 2-0 on the Leafs.
Yes.
Because Broberg and Holloway had scored.
Very funny.
Thought that was very funny.
With this penalty kill, like in just the image here of everybody being in the corner and leaving 2 guys completely unguarded. Nobody teaches you to play hockey like that. Like nobody, Craig Berube and the entire coaching staff in Toronto didn't tell them to do this. The problem with a play like this is the players on the ice. So it comes down to the personnel. And when you have a blatant mistake like this, there's nobody to blame but the four guys who decided to all go in the corner at once.
Well, I would like to apply this to the power play.
Hold on. I want to just say one thing.
Okay,
I wanna
say
tell a
one
story,
thing.
minor hockey story, okay?
Okay, do it.
I played for the Toronto Young Leafs in my day.
What level?
Single A. That's the highest I got.
How old were you?
13, 14.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And so we were on the ice 5-6 days a week.
Adam always downplays it, but like that's much higher hockey than most people.
Yeah, but I didn't get to like double A, triple A,
Yeah,
whatever,
but
like a lot of my friends did. And they were
like the gas
they were
station.
really good. Yeah. And so Jesse, you made a really good point there. What did you say about power plays or penalty kills?
What?
They don't teach that at any level.
No. Yeah, they don't teach four guys to go in the corner together.
So
yeah,
my coach at the time was a firefighter, and he, in his younger years, had gotten his bottom teeth knocked out in a hockey game because our parents' generation didn't wear masks and didn't wear helmets. Actually, right? Like my dad, when he played hockey, did not wear a mask or a helmet. He had leather skates. Like that's what we're talking about. And so this coach, to get our attention, used to like to take his dental implants and pop them out whenever we did something stupid. That moment brought me back to that. So I can remember doing a shorthanded drill.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey guys, and we were like, ugh.
That's
just to wake you up,
man thing to do.
He loved it, Jess. Like he got such a kick out of it.
Yeah.
But it was like, whatever I gotta do to remind you. And his thing was always forward, high, and he'd make us say it back. He'd be like, what did I just say? And we'd be like, forward, high. And so whenever I see the Leafs do that and they collapse, and I know that they've changed the PK somewhat over the years and whatever, they are always collapsing and there's never a forward high. And if you bring that back up, Maddie, for just a second, forward high, all the forward needs to do there, and I think that's Matthews, is stand between Baranovich and Holloway. Just stand at the top of that red circle right there. That's it. And he's in position. Even if, I think that's Chris Tanev down deep, even if Chris Tanev isn't in place, at least Holloway is 50 or 60% covered.
That was probably his first, not the greatest game with the Leafs.
Yeah.
I mean, almost... If you look at a list of Leafs who were bad last night, it's almost exclusively all their best players.
Yes. And so I just wanted to illustrate, and I wanted to put an exclamation point on what Jesse said. Nobody ever taught them this.
No.
Nobody ever taught them this at any level.
This is why I want to apply it to the power play. Because they are, 13 power play goals for their last 122 attempts, dating back to the end of last February.
Yeah, and that includes the playoffs.
That's all of March, that's all of April, and all of the playoffs. And yes, 8 games this season. Mark Savard was not around for the majority of those games. And this isn't me defending a guy who I used to work with at Sportsnet. I get it. It's me not wanting to... What? Why? I don't understand why we keep giving the benefit of the doubt. Guys, they took Riley off and that's it. It's the same group.
Yes. Yes,
It's the same group.
Yes.
How many different coaches have coached this power play? Now, I know TSN did a breakdown and like scoring chances and shots and shot attempts are down on the power play. That's concerning. That needs to be fixed. But the problems with this power play predate the current group on the bench.
Yep.
It predates Savard. It predates Berube. It's the same. And but they, last year they finished. I don't care what the overall total was on the season. I think they ended top 5 still. I don't give a good goddamn. Every year, March, April, dead. They die. They die when the lights get brighter. They just do. And I guess now the concerning part is it's happening earlier. Like I just have such a difficult time blaming it on the coach when these guys have had... How many people have managed the power play in their tenure? It's at least 4.
Yeah.
It's their fault. They stink.
Jeff O'Neill said it's time to pull one of them off and hurt someone's feelings.
One of them.
I mean, the obvious choice for me, and we've been saying this on the show, is Tavares. And even if
I take everything away from him, and if Minton was healthy, I think I'd take away his roster spot.
if Tavares is and to be fair to him, he was very sick, lost 8 pounds. That's all out there. If you're not ready to go,
He's in.
then you're not ready to go.
He's in.
And so here's the thing. Okay, so maybe he is that sick. Why is he still on the unit that's expected to perform at their best when he is not performing at his best? And it's unfair, really, to just call him out on it. But I was talking to Frank.
No, he's brutal.
I texted Frank Corrado about it last night because I was like, dude, like, what was this? And so he's like, here's what I would do. Here's my power play 1, power play 2. He's like, I am not a fan of putting all your talent on one.
Yeah.
He's like, but I think they need it. And he said 34 Matthews, 23 Nyes, 11 Domi, 88 Nylander, 95 OEL. That's PP1.
Yeah, that is what almost every fan I've spoken to is screaming from the rooftop. That exact configuration of 5.
And then that means 16 Marner, 91 Tavares, 74 McMahon, 89 Robertson, and 44 Riley.
That's a great power play unit. It's a great power play unit. It's not a knock on any player on that group.
There's a lot of power play talent.
Yes. First unit tires them out. They get a few chances. They don't go in. Second unit comes out, and because they're good, they fucking score. Not what they currently have, which is this group of 5 tag-alongs goes out there and friggin' plays 25 seconds of fuck-around hockey and kick it into the corner and fish it out of theirs. What are we doing?
Jesse, I have a couple of lines of questions for you, but the first one starts with the mid to end second period. There was a little bit debate on the broadcast, and you would have missed this because you're at the game being a credentialed reporter.
Yes.
There was a bit of a debate about whether or not on the power play, fans were booing or saying shoot. Boo Earns moment. And it specifically had to do with Marner. But it could have been anybody, right? I'm not trying to target him.
His first shot of the game came with about 3 minutes to go in the second. I know that as a fantasy holder.
So, did you hear in the second period, from what you can recall, and I'm not going to hold you to this totally, boos or shoot?
No, I'm like, I can say 85% sure that they were boos, because there was a couple moments throughout the game where the crowd was booing. So I don't think it was shoot. I think it was boos.
They booed for most of the last 10 minutes.
There was a couple times on different power plays, not even that one, where when the puck leaves the zone, the crowd starts booing. And there was a couple times when it's circling, especially at the end of the game, like half the arena was empty. I took a picture of it because it was so, like, I've never seen Scotiabank like that. It was like 3 minutes to go. Everybody just kind of left, and the people who were left were booing.
It's the lights. I think they dread when they get a power play. Oh no. Now something is expected of me. Their power play is a microcosm. It's just a mini version of every spring. Everyone's depending on me to get the job done, and I don't. How else should you look at it?
And this is where so what I tweeted at the time when I think it was, I forget, was a third or fourth power play they had, because I want to know this. And I know you know Mark Savard, and we can be open about that. He gave you shit about how you taped your stick, and that was all fun and whatever.
Gave me shit about putting my elbow.
It doesn't mean you guys are like in touch to this day and you text each other regularly. You were coworkers for a minute.
I like him,
and I'm sure he's a great guy.
Sure.
What I want to know though, is
I've had to carve Leafs I like.
What did Mark say to Leafs management to convince them that things were going to be different? Because what I have seen is the exact same. So who's running the power play? Is it Mark Savard or is it Brendan Shanahan?
Well, listen, he shoots left. I know that he's a pass first guy, so he probably likes a flatter blade. I'm not sure. I haven't seen his stick in a long time. That being said, I've never once seen him out there with them.
Mark Savard?
Yeah, during a game.
Well, but
dude, it's the same group.
But that's the problem. He's the coach, and he keeps putting the same group out there.
Yes, I don't like that.
That's my point.
I do agree. I totally agree.
Is, Mark,
totally agree.
What did you say to Brad? What did you say to Brendan, Pridham, and Shanahan? Mm-hmm. What did you say to these guys to get the job, man?
Now here's a question that I have. Savard does the strategy. Who makes the ultimate final decision of who's going out?
That'd be Chief, I think.
Yes. So there's a bit of a gray area there. My assumption is he would take
My
Savard's
understanding
advice.
is the way Craig Berube coaches is if he hires you as an assistant coach, he trusts you to make those calls.
Yeah, and
Unless
this is
he
a guy
really needs to step in.
This is a guy he probably vouched for on account of they worked together in St. Louis.
Yes.
So yeah, no, listen, I like him very much. I'm allowed to criticize him. It's fine. That group of 5, we'll say 4, since OEL's been switched onto that, cannot continue. Cannot. I mean, a lot of people are screaming.
I like the OEL switch, but I think they're only 30% of the way there.
A lot of people are screaming to take Marner off that unit. I would do it too, but if I could only take one person off, dude, JT's been terrible.
Let's focus on that for a sec. Jesse,
He's been terrible.
what did you see from JT last night? And I'll come back to you, Steve.
I think he's getting healthier. Like, I feel like we were very critical of him in that week coming off the sickness, and it's because he was sick. You know, I think there's a
missed the game.
There's a bit of an excuse there for him, and I still don't think he's up to speed and where we expect him to be, and he's probably a step slower than he was in previous years, and I think that's probably going to be where he's at going forward, but he's definitely better than he was when he was losing 8 pounds.
Right.
Yeah.
But my question then becomes, and then Steve, we're coming to you because I know you got a lot to say here on this one, is if he's just getting better, why do we keep putting him out in spots where he needs to be the best?
I think because they don't have any other answers. Like, there's no other replacement for him at the time because of how the team is constructed. Like,
That is the unfortunate answer.
who are you trusting in those situations besides him? You know, it's if he's out there because Austin just had a shift. You know, and it's like, what is your other solution? I don't know. It's not Domi right now because he's playing a lot and he's carrying a lot of weight. And if you need a face-off, you need him out there, and he's gonna have to play minutes if he's dressed that night. So I don't know. I don't know who else comes in and fills in for him at the time. And if that is your problem, then you have a roster construction problem. And you need to solve that because the team's not good enough. And if the team's not good enough, then that's your problem.
And they're going to get 2 guys back, but when they get 2 guys back, first of all, they're bottom 6 guys. One of them is arguably middle 6 in Yarncroke and Dewar. And you're going to have to shift money around too. Like, So what we're talking about is they're not deep enough?
No, I think what we're talking about is they've got...
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, I think they've got a player that is going to be fine. I
When
think
the
Tavares is going to be fine.
When the Stars don't get it done, they're dead. So?
Well, I think part of the reason to have 4 stars is that if a couple of them have a bad night, the others are supposed to take it up. But what we
They
saw
were
last night...
to a man awful.
All of them were bad.
All 4. It's rare that you see all 4 just... stink.
But
they were bad.
That was the ethos that Dubas had, and I agree with that. It's like, what are the chances all 4 are going to be shit? Well, every game 7. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm joking. I'm being facetious.
No, but
you see what I'm saying?
But we always seem to be like, okay, one guy is recovering from an illness,
yeah,
and the whole deck of cards falls down. How can you improve the depth of the team? Well, one suggestion I've heard whispered is don't be so damn top heavy, having 4 guys making that much. And here we are. And everything was on the table. You know, there was a great line that I meant to put in the LFR and I forgot to, and I was going to credit him. So I'm going to do it now. Producer Nick.
Who needs to start making some appearances on the CJ show.
Oh,
he's got great takes.
Anyone who has ever watched sports with a Portuguese person ever, that's Nick.
He's the best.
He's the best.
The absolute best.
He's every bit as fiery as me. I love seeing him pop up in the group chat. Like,
you know it's going to be good.
Oh,
yeah.
It's the best. It's the best. They said they're here to win, not sell sweaters. But all I saw was a new C to buy. Bar. I forgot to use that one.
Now,
dude.
Jesse, go ahead.
Before we move on from John Tavares, like I don't think it should go unnoticed that was the only goal they scored was the Tavares, Robertson, Lorentz line. But when you look at that line that scored the goal, it's like Did John Tavares think at this point in his Maple Leafs tenure and the contract that he big signed that hasn't even expired yet, that his winger would be Steven Lorentz? You know, you look at that and it's okay. Nick Robinson's on the side. That's kind of reasonable, but like he's playing so low in the lineup.
Their left side's a nightmare.
And yeah, it's not good enough.
No,
you know, it's
and
not
it's
there.
far from being good enough. It's
Right.
not like let's get this guy back and we'll be good enough. Like Pacioretty is out with an injury, and he's not an everyday player. Like he's in the rotation right now. Robertson, he doesn't play there. Okay, so you got Nyes, who
Yarncroke can play there, but he's injured.
Yes.
Dewar can play there, but he's injured.
Yes. Oh, well, it's all fucking fixed then. You know what I mean?
I
understand.
I'm not talking about top line talent, but I think ideally, Lorentz is a good player and energy or whatever. Sure. I think ideally, Yarncroke would be that guy.
I think, yeah, best case, it's like Nyes, McMahon, Yarncroke, Lorentz, or Dewar. Like if I had a party blower, I would blow it.
All right. It was
like, dude, who cares?
It was David Alter who was sitting there, and he pointed out, and it was just before they scored, and then I was like, they scored, and you're laughing at that line, but he wasn't wrong that, hey, the guy who was on a PTO 2 weeks ago is now John Tavares' winger, plus the guy who requested a trade and couldn't crack the lineup until he had a great preseason is his other winger, you know, and that's the point we've reached 8 games in.